Sheng Anran didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Why do you suddenly say that? Because I think Daddy doesn't like Mommy. Sheng Xiaoxing bit the green vegetables and said vaguely, he only sees me twice a year, doesn't care about us, and isn't close to Mommy. I don't want a daddy like this anymore. Mommy, let's change Daddy, okay? Sheng Anran felt a little uncomfortable. I just wanted her to stop thinking too much, so I asked someone to play the role of Dad every year. I didn't expect Xing to remember everything. She didn't dare tell the truth to the little one, but was afraid that the children in the neighborhood all had daddies, and she didn't. So she found someone to help her and come here every year to let the little one know that she had a daddy. She didn't expect the little guy to be so smart and considerate of her. Mommy, what are you thinking about? Sheng Xiaoxing added. Mommy, don't worry about me. Go find a new daddy. As long as he likes us, I can accept other brothers and sisters. The little guy's words made Sheng Anran's eyes red. Silly baby, Mommy just wants to take good care of you and watch you grow up. But I want a brother, and I also want a daddy who will spoil us like princesses. Sheng Anran hugged his small body and said nothing more. Baby, you actually have a brother, but Mom lost him? She thought of her eldest son, who was taken away by the housekeeper, and wondered how he was doing now. If possible, she really hopes to see her son and hug him one day. Secretly glancing at Sheng Anran's sad look, Sheng Xiaoxing swore secretly in his heart. It's a pity that I don't know the uncle at the airport. He looks very suitable for Mommy. Okay, I want to find a gentle and handsome new daddy to make Mommy happy every day. The day Sheng Anran went to work at the hotel happened to be the 10th anniversary celebration of Shengtang Hotel. After a brief acquaintance with the employees, Sheng Anran was extremely busy with the celebration activities. She stood in the lobby and used the intercom to give instructions to the employees upstairs, with a thin layer of sweat on his forehead. Hello, this is where we will help you check in. It's my honor to help you. I didn't expect that my first day at work would be my 10th anniversary. How could there be so many things going on? Anran? The familiar voice made Sheng Anran stiffen. She clenched her hands holding the front desk. It couldn't be such a coincidence. Sheng Anran turned around and faced a young couple in front of her. Anran, it really is you? Long time no see. The man was tall and handsome, and when he saw her turn around, there was a flash of surprise in his eyes. The woman held the man's arm tightly, and the two were extremely intimate. Seeing her ex-boyfriend again after 5 years, it was impossible not to feel sad. Sheng Anran felt a sharp pain in her heart. She clenched her fists tightly, trying to hide her emotions, and smiled slightly. Chaoze looked at Sheng Anran with complicated eyes. He moved his lips to try to say something, but in the end he said nothing. Li Yue, on the other hand, held him tighter as if asserting her sovereignty and smiled at Sheng Anran. Anran, I heard that you cut off contact with the Sheng family in order to go abroad. Have you seen your uncle since you came back this time? Li Yue seemed to care, but she was actually being sarcastic. As if seeing that Sheng Anran was in a difficult situation, Chaoze said calmly. Xiao Yue, let's go. Why go? I haven't reminisced with Anran yet. Come on, Anran, we haven't chatted for many years. Li Yue said this, not giving her a chance to refuse, and forcibly pulled her towards the elevator. I'm still working. Sheng Anran's lips were a little dry, and she lowered her eyes. There are too many people in the lobby. We can't have a conflict here. After the elevator door opened, Li Yue pulled her in. Sheng Anran lowered her eyes and could only see another guest entering the elevator, then she leaned to the side. We haven't talked for years. Li Yue held Sheng Anran's hand affectionately, smiling. Anran, can you come to my and Ozzy's engagement party? Li Yue raised her slender hand with a sparkling diamond ring on her ring finger. Her eyes were full of pride, and her red lips curled up. It's next month on the 18th. I hope you can come. Isn't this the ring that Chaozi and I chose together 5 years ago? The familiar and expensive diamond ring made Sheng Anran's eyes hurt. She remembered that when she and Chaozi went to a jewelry store, she pointed to a ring and said that she must use this ring for her future wedding. Unexpectedly, a few days later, this diamond ring was worn on Li Yue's hand. Seeing that she didn't speak, Li Yue's eyes flashed and she smiled. Are you worried that you won't have a male companion to take with you? It's okay. I know a lot of friends who can introduce you to them. I have work and no time. Sheng Anran pushed Li Yue's hand away calmly. I have a boyfriend. Besides, my ex-boyfriend and her best friend's engagement party, I'm afraid he won't let me go. Sheng Anran turned her head away to avoid making herself feel even more uncomfortable. Chaoze's expression changed slightly. Li Yue's face froze, and she pulled Sheng Anran's hand warmly. Anran, you have a boyfriend. Why don't you call him out to meet me? I really want to meet your boyfriend. No, he's busy. You can give him a call. Maybe he has time. During the tug and pull, Sheng Anran tripped, twisted, and fell directly down. Li Yue did not seem to help her at all and quietly moved to the side. Sheng Anran threw herself back and bumped into a hard chest, causing pain in her back. But in just a few seconds, Sheng Anran stood up straight, raised her head, and when her eyes met the man's cold and hard face, she quietly turned her head to the side and cursed in her heart. Why did she take the elevator twice? She met Yunancheng this way. Enemies often meet on a narrow road. Why is it him again? Li Yue said, Anran, are you okay? Sir, my friend didn't mean it. Sheng Anran clenched her fist. From the moment they entered the elevator, Li Yue started showing off and mocking her everywhere. If she knew she didn't have a boyfriend, he would be even more proud. What's even more annoying is that the man he met for the third time was clearly someone she hated. After a quick thought, Sheng Anran put her arm around Yunancheng's shoulders in an intimate manner. When she leaned over, she clearly felt the man's body stiffen, and she felt much better in her heart and said delicately, Honey, you were secretly waiting in the elevator. Did you want to give me a surprise? That's so mean. Except for Sheng Anran, the other 4 people in the elevator were stunned, especially Li Yue, who gritted her teeth. Is this Sheng Anran's boyfriend? Can she hook up with such a man? No, it's impossible. This man is very handsome, cold, and noble. Judging from the suit he is wearing, he must be a big boss. How could Sheng Anran hook up with such a rich and handsome man? Chaoze looked at Sheng Anran nestling in the arms of another man, who was better than him in every way. For a moment, his face looked very ugly. Anran, if you want to prove that you have a boyfriend, you can't drag a stranger into acting. It will make others feel embarrassed. Sheng Anran was nervous and secretly glanced at Yunancheng. She was a little unsure of what the man meant and did not dare to continue speaking rashly. The man raised his head slightly with a haughty look, his voice cold and indifferent. How much do you think she can afford to pay me to act? Sheng Anran was stunned. This meant that he was her boyfriend. Is he willing to help me? Assistant Lin was very perceptive. He pretended to flip through the documents and reminded in a neither too loud voice. Mr. Yu, this is the speech given at the celebration event. I took a look and there is nothing wrong with it. Think what Mr. Yu thinks. Do what Mr. Yu wants to do. Mr. Yu? Li Yue couldn't control the volume and shouted in a shrill voice. The man in front of me is Yunancheng. Didn't he say he wasn't interested in women? Why could Sheng Anran be with him? She really didn't have the honor of meeting him in person, but she had heard a lot of rumors about him. Yunancheng had never been interested in women. When a short-sighted partner sent a woman to his bed, he would cut off all cooperation lines in anger, and the company went bankrupt overnight. A few years ago, a little prince was suddenly born, but his biological mother was never mentioned. Everyone was talking about whether it was a surrogate mother or sperm donation. Throughout the whole process, many women lined up to become the little prince's stepmother, but none of them could get close. Anran, we are leaving first. Please bring President Yu to our engagement ceremony. When the elevator door closed again, Sheng Anran breathed a sigh of relief. Yunancheng glanced at her and said, You dared to provoke me before, but now you are so cowardly when you see people? His oppressive breath pressed directly against Sheng Anran. She didn't dare to move, her back pressed tightly against the wall, her fingers clenched. They were so close that the man's hot breath sprayed on her cheeks. Through the thin fabric, Yunancheng could feel the pair of small hands pressing on his chest. They were soft and warm, making him feel strangely familiar. This woman could actually make her react, just like the woman 5 years ago. The strange reaction of his body made Yunancheng's face grim. He never liked the feeling of being out of control. But the woman in front of him always makes him lose control again and again. You, just talk, don't get so close. Sheng Anran was nervous and stuttered, as if her tongue was tied. That day, you were closer to me than you are now. I told you I was in a hurry that day. It was an accident. Then today was also an accident and you used me as a shield? Yunancheng leaned down, close to her ear, his voice as cold as a pond. I help you because you are my employee, but if you do anything tricky again, the bet will end early. Yunancheng's stare made her hair stand on end. Sheng Anran choked with breath, unable to go up or down. As soon as he finished speaking, the elevator door opened with a ding, and Yunancheng turned around and left without wanting to fight anymore. I'm so mad. Why does he always make such thoughts? Not to mention he thinks that I have feelings for him. Sheng Anran's tense body finally went limp. My impression of this big boss doesn't last more than 3 seconds. Manager Sheng, I finally found you. As soon as Sheng Anran arrived at the department, she was stopped by assistant Vivian, who looked anxious and flustered. What's wrong? What happened? Vivian said with a bitter face. The little guest in the VIP suite was making a fuss and refused to eat. His family was not around, so what if he got hurt or was hungry? What kind of parents are so irresponsible as to leave their children alone in their room? Sheng Anran made a prompt decision. Let's go and take a look. The assistant was waiting for her to say this, and hurriedly followed. At the door of a suite, there was a loud crash, the sound of porcelain breaking, accompanied by the exclamations of the hotel waiter, and many staff members were blocking the door. Amid the noise, Sheng Anran entered the house from the corridor that everyone had given way to. Manager Sheng, you're here! There were about 10 people outside the door, from the waiter to the receptionist to the hotel manager, but they were all helpless. Where is the child? She asked in a low voice. Another manager behind him pointed in the direction of the bedroom and said, Inside, Manager Sheng, what should we do now? This act... Sheng Anran took a breath of cold air. Is this really a scene that a 5-year-old boy can destroy? The living room was already in a mess. The cushions and pillows on the sofa were thrown all over the floor. The juice cup was overturned and mixed with the pasta and broken plates and cups. The floor lamp next to the sofa also fell to the ground, leaving almost no place to step. Sheng Anran frowned and said, Contact the child's parents and I'll go in and have a look. After saying this, Sheng Anran stepped over the mess on the ground and headed towards the bedroom. Just let her in like that? Then you go? I won't go. This little guy has a bad temper. If I piss him off, I'll be in trouble. The whispering voice behind him did not fall into Sheng Anran's ears. The bedroom door was half open, enough to see what was inside. The quilt and pillows were thrown all over the floor. A small figure in a brown plaid pajamas was sitting on the cold floor with his back to the bedroom door, like a statue. Hello? Sheng Anran tried to say hello, but the other party didn't seem to want to pay attention to her, so she tried to get closer. Just after taking 2 steps, the figure suddenly moved, threw something in his hand, and rushed towards her face. Sheng Anran reacted very quickly, dodging the moment the thing pounced on her. I've seen people with bad tempers, but I've never seen someone who hits people without saying a word like the little boy in front of me. Sheng Anran also frowned. There was a bit of anger in his eyes, but the moment he saw the little boy in front of him, it disappeared inexplicably. His tender facial features seemed to be carefully carved out. Even now, she could imagine how lovable he would be when he grew up. But at this moment, his facial features were wrinkled, and his face was full of grievance. What's wrong? Sheng Anran took 2 steps closer and squatted down. Who bullied you? Little boy, don't be nervous. Can you tell me why you are so angry? Speaking of this, it seemed to have hit the point of resentment in the little boy. He made a fuss for a long time. The boy stared at him, a flash of doubt flashing through his teary eyes, and a second later he felt the voice of the person in front of him calm him down. The little boy frowned, looked awkward, and said nothing. The 2 of them, one big and one small, staring at each other. The little boy secretly looked at the ant in front of him. She seemed very different from those ants outside who were afraid of him but also hated him. This ant was so gentle. The little boy quickly wrote a line of words on the paper. Can't this kid talk? How can he write at such a young age? Sheng Anran was surprised that such a young child could write so many words. She was stunned for a long time before she came to her senses. She thought that it must be the parents who taught her intentionally. It seemed that this child really couldn't speak. Dad is a bad guy. He said we would go out and play, but he never came back. How could they leave a child in a hotel for so many days? Sheng Anran's brows also frowned. How much thought does this parent have? Sheng Anran sighed, touched his head, and comforted him. This is too much. How could Dad do this? When he comes back, I will help you to say... Sheng Anran stopped when she heard the sound of the stomach of the little boy in front of her. You must be hungry. Auntie will get you something to eat. After making so much noise for so long, it's time for him to get hungry. Sheng Anran smiled, turning around to get the food. Just as she stood up, she was pulled back. When she lowered her head, she saw the little boy pulling at her skirt with a wronged look on his face, as if he thought she was going to leave just like that. Seeing him so insecure, Sheng Anran thought of her daughter. When she was busy with work before, she didn't have time to accompany her. There was a click sound, and the boy saw the chandelier sway. He turned his head and was shocked to see the crystal lamp above the ant making a clicking sound. The friction and collision of the chains made the entire crystal chandelier shake violently. "Manager Sheng! Young master!" The person at the door turned pale with fright, watching the chandelier fall down with a loud bang. The sharp crash of the crystal chandelier shattering was mixed with the screams of people falling to the ground at the door. At the moment, when everyone was terrified and hesitant, Sheng Anran almost didn't even think about it. She risked being hit by the chandelier and protected the little boy. At this moment, in the center of the living room, the crystal chandelier was in pieces and the floor was in a mess. Sheng Anran protected the little boy with one hand, and the other hand was pressed under the chandelier, a bloody mess, and he fainted on the spot due to the pain. The scene was in chaos. Before falling unconscious, Sheng Anran seemed to hear the little boy in his arms sobbing. It seems to be Mommy. A high-end private club in Jinling. Yunnan Cheng had just signed the contract, and his assistant sent away the other party's boss who was negotiating cooperation. While waiting for the assistant, he was drinking tea alone in the box. Days like this are the norm in his life. "Nancheng, it's really you!" A sweet girl's voice came. When Yu Nancheng heard the voice, his brows slightly frowned and he looked back. The tall beauty just lifted the curtain of the box and walked in with a look of surprise on her face when she saw him. "I just went to see Grandpa 2 days ago." Gao Yawen sat down opposite him and carefully looked at his face. Seeing that he didn't react to the word Grandpa, she continued. "He said that if you take care of Zhuxi by yourself, there will always be some things you can't take care of, and it seems that he wants to take Zhuxi back to live with him." Hearing this, Yunnan Cheng's expression was deep. "I'm afraid it won't be as safe to go back as it is to be with me, so you don't have to come and persuade me." Gao Yawen smiled and explained calmly. "What persuaded? I just said it casually." Yunnan Cheng didn't comment. As he was talking, his assistant hurried in. "Mr. Yu," the hotel called and said that the crystal chandelier in the young master's suite suddenly fell down. Yunnan Cheng's face darkened and he immediately stood up from his seat. A flash of anxiety flashed across his usually calm eyes and he asked in a cold voice, "Where is Zhuxi? How is he?" The hotel staff rescued him in time and young master was not injured, but he also went to the hospital just in case, the assistant explained. The moment she heard this, a sinister look flashed in Gao Yawen's eyes, but it quickly disappeared. "Go to the hospital." Hearing this, Yunnan Cheng wanted to leave immediately. Gao Yawen glanced at Yunnan Cheng's suit jacket on the hanger, quickly took it off and followed him. "Nancheng, wait for me, I'll go with you." Hospital, Ward B02. "Zhuxi!" When Yu Nancheng rushed to the hospital, the person on the bed was still asleep. His beloved son Yu Jingxi hadn't even changed his clothes. He sat by the bed in his pajamas, waiting for the person who saved him to wake up. Hearing the noise, Yu Jingxi turned around, and when he saw Yu Nancheng, his expression relaxed a little. Yu Nancheng did not notice anything strange in his eyes. He just thought he was blaming her for not taking him to the amusement park and causing him to get into trouble, so he softened his voice. "Jingxi, what's wrong?" Yu Jingxi pulled Yu Nancheng to the bedside, pointed at the woman on the bed. Yu Nancheng looked towards the person on the bed hesitantly. After seeing the pale face, his expression froze a little. "It was her? I didn't expect her to try so hard to save Jingxi." This woman actually had the courage to risk her life to save Jingxi. Thinking of his previous bad attitude towards her, Yu Nancheng's expression became a little more complicated. "Jingxi!" Yu Jingxi seemed to want to say something, but when he saw Gao Yawen following Yu Nancheng into the room, his face immediately turned pale. He broke free from Yu Nancheng's hand. "Daddy is very sorry about what happened today. Daddy promises you that I will never break an appointment again, okay?" Jingxi's face turned pale. After hearing the noise of Gao Yawen coming in, he was so scared, as if he had been injected with drugs. He dared not move, and even his eyes were stiff. Yunancheng was confused and asked, Zhuxi, what's wrong with you? Let me do it. Maybe he got frightened today. Gao Yawen's voice came from behind. She squatted down and touched Yu Jingxi's head. Jingxi, do you want to go eat with Auntie? Yu Jingxi shuddered, his eyes filled with fear. He immediately dodged Gao Yawen, ran behind Yunancheng, and grabbed his trouser leg tightly. He must have been frightened, Gao Yawen explained calmly and then sighed. Nancheng, I'll accompany you to take Jingxi back. The child was frightened and needs to rest. Yunancheng hesitated and glanced at Sheng Anran, who was unconscious on the bed. Tell the hospital to take good care of her. After instructing the hospital to take good care of her, he left.